Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of your sources, the articles, the research, the deep-seated secrets, and pull out the nuggets you need to be the most informed person in the room.
And today, wow, we are plunging into a world where trust is optional, memory is a weapon, and the perfect family facade, well, it conceals decades of violence.
We are diving into Alice Feeney's fiendishly well-plotted thriller, His and Hers.
And we really have to start our analysis not with the plot, but with the author herself, which is, I think, crucial context here.
Right.
Alice Feeney spent 15 years at the BBC. She was a reporter, a news editor, a producer.
And the sources highlight she even produced the 1 o'clock news. That's the big one.
Incredibly competitive, and that deep professional background, it just immediately sets up the high stakes, the internal politics, and, the incredible realism of the media setting in the novel.
Exactly. Her experience just lends so much authenticity to that high-pressure, cutthroat environment Anna operates in. So for our deep dive, we're using extensive excerpts from His and Hers.
A novel whose core promise really dictates our mission today.
If there are two sides to every story, someone is always lying.
And our mission then becomes forensic, really. The sources just plunge us into these alternating, totally unreliable perspectives.
It's not just two characters telling their side of things.
No, not at all. We are dealing with two actively self-deceiving individuals, a detective and a news presenter, as they become, inextricably entangled in a series of highly ritualized murders.
And these crimes are all linked back to this catastrophic shared childhood trauma.
All happening in the seemingly picturesque, wealthy town of Blackdown. So our task is to extract the truth from this fog of secrets and self-imposed lies that both narrators are just constantly generating.
Okay, let's unpack this. We should start with her, Anna Andrews, the news presenter.
Right.
And right away, the sources introduce her as a professional and, well, a personal nadir.
Yeah.
She's just suffered this massive, really humiliating demotion.
From the plum job, right? Presenting the 1 o'clock news, a role she held for 2 solid years, and she gets knocked back to the less visible correspondent desk.
That demotion is the trigger for so much of her desperation.
It is. She was replaced by Kat Jones, who just returned from maternity leave, and this detail is so important because it taps into Anna's deepest insecurity.
Yeah, she's approaching 40, and she's childless after the devastating death of her daughter, Charlotte, 2 years before.
So seeing Kat Jones, who has, and I quote, 2 beautiful little girls, it just throws Anna's own perceived failure into this really sharp relief.
And that failure fuels her motivation, doesn't it? She sees this murder story not as a tragedy, but as a lifeline.
A way back. She needs to aggressively pursue this story to regain her position because, as she reflects, she's worked too hard for too long to disappear.
Her internal life is just defined by self-destruction and hiding things.
Oh, completely. The sources describe her heavy reliance on alcohol, drinking wine straight from the bottle, carrying miniature whiskeys around. It's this private, relentless routine of self-loathing.
But what's so fascinating is the almost clinical nature of her denial.
Yes.
We're told she uses a personal breathalyzer in her mini convertible, just to make sure she's under the limit, safe enough to drive.
She's maintaining the facade of control while she is absolutely spiraling internally.
That single detail, the personal breathalyzer, it tells you everything about her commitment to surface appearance. She wants the truth in her professional life, but she absolutely cannot be honest about her own story.
About who I am, where I came from, what I've done.
Exactly. She actively buries her past mistakes, locking the real story away in what she calls a secure secret box inside my head.
Which is the ultimate act of self-deception and really the thematic heart of the book. She's a journalist driven by truth, but a person driven by the compulsion to lie.
Okay, so now let's look at him, Detective Chief Inspector Jack Harper.
Right. So he's recently moved back to Blackdown from the Metropolitan Police in London from the Met.
And his initial description of his work life, it couldn't be more different from Anna's competitive scramble, could it? He calls his DCI job dull as a nun's underwear drawer.
I mean, he's unhappy. He describes himself as a miserable old git who is just sleepwalking through loaned-out life.
He's just drifting, trying for this sort of emotional hibernation after the divorce from Anna and, of course, the loss of Charlotte.
But his professional malaise is just violently disrupted because he has an immediate crippling secret connected to the very first murder.
He was having an affair with the victim.
A casual sex without strings affair with the victim, Rachel Hopkins, and this is the kicker. He was with her the night she died.
That detail doesn't just raise suspicion. It makes him an active participant in the cover-up before the investigation even starts.
He's immediately consumed by panic. His first thought is, if anyone ever finds out, they're going to think it was me.
And that thought instantly establishes his incentive to lie, to cover up, and ultimately to undermine his own investigation. It's a complete betrayal of his job.
And we get a sense of how toxic that relationship with Rachel was. He describes her as being like a drug, someone who let him do whatever I wanted.
It's this casual, emotionless dependency. It exposes the depth of his own emotional failure and his reliance on these temporary fixes.
Which perfectly mirrors Anna's dependence on alcohol.
And that's the core narrative brilliance here, isn't it? The sources use these small, intimate, physical details to expose the magnitude of their self-deception.
Precisely. For Anna, it's that she continually feels the invisible indentation on her finger where her wedding ring used to be.
Like a phantom limb, a reminder of the marriage and child she lost.
And for Jack, when he's under stress, he compulsively grips a child's dummy, a pacifier, which he keeps hidden in his pocket.
It's a silent, constant acknowledgement of Charlotte.
Yeah, the daughter he lost. It represents his own psychological regression and his desire for a comfort he just cannot admit out loud.
It's a very literal way of showing they are both stuck, completely stuck in a past trauma they can't move beyond.
So let's frame this with the setting. Blackdown.
It sounds idyllic, but the sources paint it as, well, as complicit.
The town itself is a character in this conspiracy of silence. Blackdown is described as a sleepy variety of town, wealthy, conforming, where if something bad does happen...
People remember how to forget surprisingly quickly.
Exactly. It's a place built on preserving surfaces and burying secrets.
And that element extends to the physical geography of the first crime scene. The victim is found near the railway station.
Yes, the historic Blackdown railway station. It was built in 1850. It's a listed heritage site. And because of that protected status, it's shielded from unnecessary forms of modernization.
Which critically means?
No security cameras.
Wow.
The killer chose a location that is naturally shielded from surveillance because the town prioritizes aesthetic history over modern security. It's the perfect place for a crime rooted in the past to unfold completely undetected.
Let's move to the crime itself. The first victim, Rachel Hopkins, is discovered in the woods near that unprotected station.
And Jack, of course, recognizes her immediately.
But the sources give us this truly disturbing insight into the killer's mindset through their internal monologue about Rachel's character.
The killer's rationale for the murder is rooted in this twisted sense of justice. They see Rachel as a serpent in sheep's clothing, someone who was fundamentally corrupt beneath a glittering exterior.
They meticulously detail her hypocrisy, how Rachel was regularly stealing money from a charity she ran.
And using it to fund a lavish lifestyle, an Audi TT, a designer coat, a trip to New York. The killer was tracking her expenses.
So they saw her as a moral stain on the community.
And believed it would be a crime to let her keep getting away with it. This establishes the killer's motive not as random violence, but as a kind of moral purge, targeting perceived lies and hypocrisy.
And here's where we see the chilling ritualistic pattern begin, the one that will mark all the victims.
The key physical clues at Rachel's scene are a red and white friendship bracelet tied around her tongue,
suggesting she was being silenced, prevented from speaking some truth.
And disturbingly, her expensive shoes were taken by the killer, a souvenir, a trophy to remember the destruction of a materialistic hypocrite.
That bracelet is the hook that yanks Anna directly back into the trauma she tried so hard to bury. She runs into Jack at the crime scene, which leads to this immediate, tense confrontation.
And professionally, this doesn't help her at all. She's quickly demoted even further by her boss, the infamous thin controller, back to being a field correspondent.
So her humiliation is just compounded, increasing her desperation.
But the moment of true personal realization hits when Anna recognizes the victim. She quickly realizes she went to St. Hilary's Girls' Grammar School with Rachel.
So she goes back to her estranged mother's home, where she's reluctantly staying, and she opens this relic from her past.
A wooden jewelry box, which was originally a gift from her abusive father.
And inside, she finds two pieces of absolutely damning evidence. An identical red and white friendship bracelet.
And an old faded photograph of 5 teenage girls.
And those girls are identified as Rachel, Helen, Zoe, and herself.
The shock must be immense. This is no longer some random crime story she's covering. It's a meticulously targeted assault on her past.
Centered on the most painful and shameful period of her life. The killer is operating within her immediate social circle from years ago.
And while Anna is trying to process this devastating personal link, Jack is just sinking, rapidly, under his own lies.
We really need to spend some time on the beginning of the frame job because it relies entirely on Jack's own paranoia.
The killer is incredibly clever in how they use Jack's fear against him. Items intimately related to Rachel are planted in his car.
Black, lacy knickers, thick fingernail clippings.
And critically, her mobile phone. He finds the phone in his glove compartment.
So why these items? Intimate, but also traceable.
The knickers and nail clippings, they suggest an intimate relationship, fueling that initial suspicion of passion or revenge. But the phone, that's the masterstroke.
It forces his hand.
Exactly. He initially tries to rationalize it, convince himself he might have grabbed it by mistake the night she died, but then he deletes messages on the device.
Which is an immediate act of tampering and obstruction.
And his panic escalates when he realizes a triangulation request has been placed on Rachel's phone to track its last known location. So he desperately tries to cancel that request.
He's trying to bury the digital footprint that proves he was with her, that he was the last person to have the phone.
This is the moment Jack sacrifices his professional integrity completely. He goes from being a compromised detective to a criminal accessory.
He confirms his own worst fear. He's being expertly framed.
And every single move he makes to deny his connection with Rachel only serves to deepen the circumstantial evidence against him. The killer knew exactly how Jack would react. Panicked, self-preserving, and prone to lying.
The killer's pace is just relentless. The escalation is so swift and brutal, it confirms the pattern. They're targeting the girls in that photo.
The second victim is Helen Wang. She was also in the same school year as Anna, Rachel, and Jack's sister, Zoe.
And now she's the headmistress of St. Hilary's, the grammar school they all attended.
The crime scene in the school office, it's designed to shock and to send a very specific message about the victim's public versus private life. Helen's throat is slit.
And the red and white bracelet is tied to her tongue, confirming the ritual.
But the killer adds this new, horrific layer of psychological torture that goes way beyond just murder. The word liar is stapled directly into her chest.
Over 100 tiny silver slivers spelling out that accusation, that level of detail, that level of ritualized humiliation. It suggests immense, decades-old rage.
It's not enough for the killer to take their life. They have to destroy their identity, their reputation. The killer deleted Helen's novel in progress, this personal project she was working on in her office, and replaced it with these chilling, repetitive lines.
Helen should not tell lies. It's an act of intellectual and emotional erasure.
And that erasure extended to her professional reputation, too. The killer deliberately planted illegal substances and secrets to paint the headmistress as a hypocrite, a bad role model for her students.
Noting that she was addicted to power, illegal substances, and secrets.
It's clear this killer is playing the long game, meticulously exposing the victims as hypocrites and systematically destroying their public images.
Meanwhile, the detective work starts to zero in on Anna.
Right. Jack, who's trying to protect himself and his estranged wife, finds that Anna's vulnerability is just completely exposed. She reveals she got a tip-off call
About the second murder, before the police released a statement.
on the school's landline, no less. So she has an inside track, but Jack is furious that she's reporting on a murder he's supposed to be investigating.
And Anna, in turn, she tries to deflect that suspicion onto Richard Jones, her cameraman, who gave her the tip confirming Helen Wang's identity.
Which is classic narrative misdirection. It capitalizes on Anna's professional resentment. She focuses not just on Richard, but on his wife, Kat Jones, the woman who stole her job.
And Jack, who's already compromised his ethics, he looks up Richard's record.
And finds he had been charged with GBH grievous bodily harm. That's a serious offense, deliberately inflicting injury.
So while Anna is fixating on Kat, Jack is momentarily distracted by the cameraman's violent past.
It's a brilliant red herring. It pulls both you, the reader, and Jack away from the true, invisible mastermind.
But the killer makes sure Anna knows she is being watched, and worse, targeted. She leaves that old-school photo of the 5 girls in her hotel room.
Only to return and find a black cross, meticulously drawn over Rachel's face.
Which is terrifying. It means the killer is close enough to get into her private space, her hotel room.
While she's drinking, while she's asleep, while she's out reporting. And the sources give us another detail that just increases her paranoia. Someone had been visiting her room, tidying away her empty liquor bottles and turning down her bed.
This simultaneous comfort and violation, it just shatters her sense of security. It shows the killer has this intimate, almost nurturing knowledge of her habits.
The targets are confirmed, the people in that photograph.
And the stakes go from high to devastatingly personal when the third victim is found. Zoe Harper.
Jack's younger sister. and another former schoolmate of the group, and she's murdered in Jack's own home, making the crime deeply personal and immediately framing the detective.
The ritual escalates again, adding this highly personalized, intimate torture. Zoe's is found dead in the bath. The clues are calculated to suggest suicide and personal malice.
Slit wrists, one eye sewn shut, a clear, gruesome reference to the idea of turning a blind eye to the past.
And the signature is there, the bracelet tied around her tongue.
The killer made sure the framing was instantaneous and undeniable. Before she died, Zoe wrote the name Anna on the tiled wall in her own blood.
The knife used from Jack's own kitchen block is missing, and the photo of the 5 girls is found, now with crosses over Rachel, Helen, and Zoe.
Jack's colleague, Priya Patel, who's really the voice of objective police procedure, she immediately suspects him.
She sees everything. His attempts to cancel the tracking of Rachel's phone, the boots matching the crime scene prints found in his bin.
And his deep, compromising link to all 3 victims, including his own sister. The trap is complete. Jack, the seasoned DCI, is hoisted by his own petard of paranoia and self-interest. He became the prime suspect because he just refused to tell the truth.
With 3 victims down, 3 crosses on the photo, Jack and Anna are forced to confront the absolute horror of their high school years.
They have to identify the killer. They have to identify the 5th girl.
That girl is Catherine Kelly.
And we really have to pause here and fully appreciate the depth of the trauma the sources attribute to her. Catherine was portrayed as a lonely, extremely poor student.
She stood out because she was different. White blonde hair, braces, stained clothes.
She was mocked relentlessly, given the cruel nickname Dumbo, and in her desperation for comfort, she would compulsively eat chocolate bars.
That detail about her social isolation and her coping mechanism, it just underscores the extreme vulnerability that the other 4 girls exploited.
And the cruelty was systematic. It was targeted. Anna invited Catherine to her birthday party, but it wasn't an act of kindness. It was a setup.
The girls, led by Rachel, orchestrated this vicious public cruelty that culminated in the school canteen.
Where they tricked Catherine into drinking Rachel's urine.
That single act of degradation defines the genesis of the killer's rage. It's a memory so heinous it justifies, in the killer's mind, decades of retribution.
But the ultimate horror happened later that night, during Anna's birthday party in the woods. Rachel, who was addicted to manipulating people in power, orchestrated a sexual encounter with 4 older men.
She was selling the girls, including Catherine, for money and pills.
Catherine was brutally raped, and perhaps the worst betrayal is that Rachel took photos of the assault. Catherine ran home barefoot, leaving her shoes behind, carrying this indelible trauma and the deep wound of betrayal by the only people she thought were her friends.
This event fundamentally shattered her life, and it created the monster seeking justice decades later.
So who is this traumatized girl now?
This leads to the massive, satisfying twist. Anna finally connects the dots. The BBC News presenter who took her job, the woman with the sharp red bob and 2 small children, Cat Jones.
Is Catherine Kelly.
Cat Jones, the object of Anna's professional jealousy, is the target of years of abuse who disappeared and completely rebuilt her identity.
The implication seems so clear. The revenge plot must be Cat's, targeting the girls who orchestrated her childhood abuse and assault.
And Jack, trying desperately to find Cat Jones to prove his innocence, he goes to her old family home in the woods.
But he finds the latest victim first. Richard Jones, the cameraman and Cat's husband. He's already dead inside.
The sources describe Richard Jones with a concave crater on the back of his skull and stab wounds all over his back. He was eliminated, he was collateral damage, or an obstacle.
The 5th girl has come home for revenge against the entire group, extending now beyond the original 4.
Richard's death comes just as Jack's world collapses completely.
He's arrested, surrounded by his own colleagues, led by Priya Patel. She has the concrete proof of his cover-up, trying to cancel the tracking of Rachel's phone, along with all the circumstantial evidence. The matching boot prints, his deep personal links to every single victim.
The years of self-deception finally catch up to Jack. Cornered, he shouts out the truth.
Catherine Kelly, Cat Jones is the killer.
But his confession is hollow. It's too late. It's tainted by all the lies he told to save himself earlier.
The miserable old git who tried to sleepwalk through a loaned-out life realizes he is paying the ultimate price for his lack of honesty. The killer exploited not just the past trauma, but the present character flaws of both Jack and Anna.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This is where the entire narrative just pivots.
We transition to the final confrontation in the woods. Anna is running with her seemingly frail mother, Mrs. Andrews, after the mother's house appeared to have been broken into.
The sheer brilliance of Feeney's plotting is revealed right here. The true villain is not the detective, not the reporter, not the traumatized survivor.
It is the person Anna trusted most, the person she believed was utterly harmless and vulnerable.
Her mother.
Mrs. Andrews, who Anna thought was suffering from this drink-fueled dementia, confesses to the ultimate calculated deception.
Let's unpack the mother's decades-long secret. Her motivation, which is rooted in protecting Anna from Anna's own history and from the violence of her father.
Right. Mrs. Andrews confesses that years ago she killed Anna's abusive father. He was attacking her, he was threatening Anna, and she says, "Something snapped inside me."
And the practical detail of the cover-up demonstrates her long-term cunning. She buried him in the garden.
And later covered the grave with a brand new patio. This act established her capacity for deception and violence years before the Blackdown murders even began. She's not a sudden killer, she is a master of concealment.
And her life as a cleaner gave her the perfect, invisible platform for the murders.
Absolutely. Because she was a cleaner for over 20 years in Blackdown, Mrs. Andrews had kept multiple spare keys to village homes,
Including the hotel where Anna was staying, and Rachel's childhood home.
She was this invisible entity moving in and out of people's private spaces, knowing their schedules, their secrets, completely unnoticed.
And the supposed memory loss. The dementia, that was a calculated shield.
It was camouflage. She admits she pretended to be a bit forgetful and wandered the streets a few times in my nightdress to create sympathy and to manipulate Jack.
She hoped the chaos would bring Jack back to town out of pity, hoping Anna would follow.
She was using her perceived frailty as a weapon to orchestrate a reunion and a new beginning for her daughter.
Her orchestration of the 4 murders was driven by this desperately twisted, toxic form of maternal love. She confirmed she killed Rachel.
To bring Anna home.
She killed Helen.
To keep Anna close.
And she killed Zoe because she was a distraction in Jack's life.
And her professional motivation for framing Cat Jones was breathtakingly specific. Killing Cat Jones meant Anna could get her job back on the 1 o'clock news.
She saw the murders not as crimes, but as these highly personalized, violent gifts designed to remove every obstacle from Anna's path to a happier future.
A future defined by professional success and Jack's return.
The logistics of the frame job prove her absolute mastery of misdirection. She planted the items, the knickers and nail clippings in Jack's car, knowing his history with Rachel and his paranoia would ensure he covered it up.
She took Anna's stolen overnight bag. She even visited Anna's hotel room while Anna was drinking to tidy away her mess, put water by her bed, creating that sense of unnerving familiarity we talked about.
And the voice changer detail is brilliant.
She found it in a box of confiscated items in the school office, giving her the ability to manipulate Cat Jones digitally.
The key was stealing Richard Jones's mobile phone from his unlocked car while he and Anna were filming in the woods.
She then used Richard's phone to text Cat Jones, threatening to expose her past trauma, the secret of what you did with those men in the woods 20 years ago, including the photos Rachel had taken. She weaponized Cat's deepest secret to lure her.
She successfully lured Cat Jones to her parents' house in the woods, along with Cat's 2 small children, under the guise of trying to save her marriage.
Mrs. Andrews intended to kill Cat, but she wanted it to look like a suicide. That would complete the framing of the 5th girl as the crazed, traumatized killer.
But the plan was almost foiled. Cat, the actress, faked her death.
Yes. Mrs. Andrews waited, hidden under the bed with her knife, listening as Cat paced. Cat attempted to hang herself with a school tie, but Mrs. Andrews later discovered Cat had changed the knot to a specific sailing knot her father taught her.
She had faked her death.
And when Mrs. Andrews realized this, she then killed Richard Jones, bashing his head in to complete the narrative that Cat was the unstable, violent killer who murdered her husband before attempting suicide.
But Cat survived. And in the chaos of the woods, she recognized the supposedly frail cleaner. Cat even managed to stab Mrs. Andrews with a knife in a struggle.
The conclusion is just this chaotic, desperate final act. Jack, arriving on the scene, is shot non-fatally through the shoulder while trying to protect Anna.
And the final tragic figure is Cat Jones, who survived her own suicide attempt, only to be found and shot by Detective Priya Patel.
Ending the life of the abused girl who became the perfect narrative scapegoat.
And the final chilling piece of the puzzle links back to Anna's own concealment and denial. After all the hospital chaos, Anna discovers her mother's final secret, one that ensures Anna becomes complicit.
Mrs. Andrews asks, "Did they find the knife inside the hive?"
The hive refers to the beehive, the one thing Anna kept from her mother's home, the one piece of normalcy she clung to.
And Anna realizes she had hidden the murder weapon there after leaving the hospital, not knowing what to do with it. She unknowingly helped her mother conceal the ultimate crime.
The cycle of deception is complete. Anna realizes her mother is capable of the ultimate lie, and that dangerous, distorted maternal protection will never reveal the full truth.
And Anna decides to keep this final secret, internalizing the chilling narrative truth of the entire story. That choosing to forget can indeed be a lot less painful than choosing to remember.
So what does this all mean? I mean, we've been taken through an incredible emotional journey, realizing the true villain was the seemingly harmless, almost invisible mother.
Whose desperate, twisted love drove a revenge plot spanning decades. She utilized elaborate misdirection, weaponized her own perceived frailty, and exploited the trauma and dependencies prevalent among all the core characters.
The entire plot functions as this meticulous study in human denial.
It does. Anna's severe alcoholism, her reliance on the breathalyzer to maintain a facade, Jack's avoidance, his need for casual sex and the silent comfort of the pacifier, and Mrs. Andrews' calculated performance of dementia all were integral parts of the killer's ability to operate.
Trauma and the refusal to address it were the real engines driving the violence.
But amidst the wreckage of Blackdown, we do find a painful path toward recovery and moving on, built on a new shared truth.
Jack and Anna reconcile, not as romantic partners, but as co-parents. They decide to move back to London to take custody of Jack's young niece, Olivia, who was also targeted and drugged by Mrs. Andrews in her final frenzy.
And Jack plans to return to the Met, but only in a part-time role, which is a crucial shift in his priorities. He's choosing family stability over the job that previously consumed him.
And Anna, 6 months later, she achieves the career success her mother risked everything for. She successfully regains her position presenting the 1 o'clock news. They've forced a new life out of the ashes of the old one.
And the final symbol of this resilient, if deeply compromised future, is the beehive.
Anna ensures her mother's beehive, the hiding place of the final knife, survives the difficult and dangerous move to London.
The beehive becomes this powerful metaphor for their new family structure. Anna observes the bees, noting that despite the long, treacherous journey and all the upheaval, they survive.
And are starting again in a brand new home.
It mirrors the painful resilience needed by Anna and Jack to survive their mother's machinations and build a new, safer foundation, despite the dangerous secret they now share.
The knowledge that they carry a dark, lethal secret to their new life in London is perhaps the ultimate compromise. The resilience is built not on perfect honesty, but on shared, necessary omission.
Which brings us back to the narrator's final, chilling thought. Choosing to forget can be a lot less painful than choosing to remember. It makes you realize that the most successful lies are often those that allow us to live with ourselves.
So in a world where every character, from the detective to the reporter to the seemingly frail mother, actively chooses to lie or erase painful memories to create a better present, what is the most dangerous kind of lie? The one you tell others or the one you tell yourself?
That's what we leave you to mull over after this deep dive into the corrosive power of secrets and memory. We'll catch you next time.